and welcome back everybody to day one. So we just kicked off and we're talking about opening, opening to new possibilities, perspectives, to this idea that you really can create a new identity. No matter where you are in your life right now, no matter what it is that you're going through, if you open up to this idea, right? Then and you're going to find out in days 2 and 3 that through the practice of instilling, these mind, body, spirit tools, if you will, you really can step into a new personality, and create a new personal reality for yourself. And so I'm incredibly excited about my next guest. She is a conscious entrepreneur and a medicine woman. I met
Mhm.
this dear sister, Ambr, in Colombia, the last couple of months, and she's going to be talking about alchemizing hardships to opportunities. So I'm really grateful to have you on here, Ambr, and super excited to hear what you have to share. Anything else you want to kind of share about who you are first before you actually get into alchemizing hardships and opportunities?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lee. I appreciate the introduction and the opportunity to be here and sharing with everyone who's listening. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Amber. I am 28 years old. I'm originally from Singapore and I'm half French. I'm currently in Medellin in Colombia. I've been here for about 4 months and I've started my own company and I have my own project now here, which is, crazy. And I laugh about it because just a few years ago, or looking back at my early 20s, like this life is just, everything's changed in so little time. And I guess that's why I'm here to share that experience with you guys, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'd love for you to go into um yeah, like how do we actually alchemize hardships into opportunities? Because I feel like, again, so many of us, we get so focused on the problem that we can't actually see that there are solutions, and we get so caught up in the busyness and kind of co-regulation, um, with everything that's happening in our lives, that
Mhm.
sometimes it's actually hard to pull back enough to actually see that, hey, like, things need to change, and maybe these are some things that I can actually do to change them.
Absolutely. And first I just want to start by saying that the person, the woman that like is sitting here and that you see, this took a lot of work and a lot of time for me to get where I'm at today. And as I tell my friends, my family, and the people who know me, like, don't get stuck on the destination. Don't get stuck at the final result, because the person that I am today, fuck, excuse me, may I swear here?
Yeah,
Like, there's been 28 years of hardship and a lot of work behind this. And I like to keep things real. I like to keep things super authentic. Like, by all means, I am not perfect and I have not reached at any super high spiritual elevation. I'm no different than any other person right here listening or speaking, or any other person out there. We're all human beings. We all have a brain. We all have a body. We all are having this very similar human experience. So by all means, whenever people look up to me, idolize me, or put me on a pedestal, it's like, no, 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 no. I am no different than anyone else. I just took the tools that are available to all of us and used them to my advantage. And we all have the access and the faculties to do that, because, like I said, we're all human beings. We all have a similar brain. We all have a similar body, and we're all navigating this societal experience. So just for the little background, the the gifts or the challenges or obstacles that I was given in life from a very young age have been addictions, drugs, alcohol, sex, all of that. Okay. And, I have no shame in speaking about it today, because if I hadn't gone through all of that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And I don't ever want to be ashamed for things that I've done, because I have been shamed so many times that I don't ever want to feel like that again. And I don't ever want anyone to feel like that. Yes, I've done a lot of shit. So what? I own up to it and I move forward. Because what's the point of like self-flagellating and beating myself up on things that happened in the past that no longer exists? So back to the mindset. It's back to the mindset and perspective thing. You know, I reached a point at some point in my maybe mid-20s where I understood that no one's going to come save me. No one's going to come rescue me. No one's going to change me. And trust me, many people have tried. Like I said, my parents sent me to rehab when I was 21. They forced me into rehab. Sure, that helped. That was a catalyst to my sobriety journey. When I got kicked out of rehab after 3 months, which is a whole other story in itself, and my rehab experience, you know, could that involves me having sex with people in rehab, which you're not allowed to do. That involves me escaping rehab after 2 months to go drink. And that involves me getting kicked out of rehab after 3 months. It was not pretty. Like, I was a rebellious teenager that had so many issues and that just didn't know what the fuck she was doing. Anyways, when all of that happened, my dad then died 1 week after that. And I had the choice to either go down the rabbit hole of like, oh my God, what is my life? You know, my dad just died after all of this stuff going on and rehab and, you know, survived the tsunami and parents got divorced and rape and this, da, 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 da. So I could have gone down like, okay, I'm so over it. I'm going to relapse and kill myself, which was my thought process. Or I could have said, you know what? Things could not get any worse than this. Because trust me, how worse could it get in that moment of time? And it's like, once you hit that rock bottom, it's like the only way is up. And after I got through the thought process of like wanting to kill myself, and I realized that there were little things that were happening in my life that sort of pushed me towards life, I said, you know what? I'm going to just give this one shot. I'm going to just try and change my life, try and change myself for the better. And if it doesn't work, I know that I can always revert back to alcohol, drugs, and to kill myself ultimately. I know I can do that, but I don't know what a life in sobriety is. I don't know what a life living is. I know what a life in that depression and suicidal state is, but I don't know what a life in the life. The gym or working out. Who wants to work out every single day at 5 in the morning? I don't know many people, but I had to force myself, put my body in action, turn this thing off for a second. And then once the body is like in motion, like a train, once it's going, this follows automatically. That was one of the things that I had applied since then until now. It's like when I don't want to do something, that is my cue to do it. If I don't want to take a cold shower, that is my cue. The more I started feeling better and things started not feeling so dark anymore, the more I was like, this is compound interest. If I do little steps on a daily basis to get better, it's eventually gonna materialize.
You're freezing, Amber. You're freezing on and off here. I don't know if you can hear me. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Are we back?
Yep.
I'm not sure at what point it cut.
Basically like the last 2 minutes.
Do you remember the last thing I said before it froze?
Mm, you're talking about when you don't want to do something, that's a sign that you should do it.
Right. I lost my thought process.
So if you didn't want to do an ice bath, then that's your sign that you should jump into an ice bath. If you don't want to go to the gym, that's your sign that
Yeah.
you should go to the gym.
Okay. So that's the fastest way that what that worked for me was to hack my brain and hack my body, because as a previous addict, I love shortcuts, or let me say past, I loved shortcuts. Anything that could get me faster to where I wanted to go, I would do it, right? And that's why I used to get fucked up all the time, because I loved being at that state of like complete oblivion, and the fastest way to do that was to take I don't know how many shots and I don't know how many lines of coke and all of this. So still applying that shortcut mentality to the healthier side, it's like, okay, how can I hack my body? How can I hack my brain? And it's through very, very simple steps, like just not doing what I don't want to do, or like something as cheesy as a gratitude list. It actually really works when you're feeling shitty.
Cutting again.
As that, oh, I got sober at 21 and then I changed my life and then I lived happily ever after. But no, that's not the case. I was sober for a couple of years. Yes, changed my life around. Saw that there was so much life had to offer. Like I studied again, I started traveling, I was going all around, made some, investments, and met really interesting people, and got with this guy, and then I eventually was engaged and all of these beautiful things. And then things were going so well in my life, and maybe people can relate to this too, where things are going so well that then you kind of lose track and you kind of forget, and you're just riding this pink cloud, and then the little darkness starts creeping in, and before you know it, I was drinking again, and I was in this really dark headspace, and it happened so fast. If one doesn't keep on track with their habits and maintaining a healthy lifestyle. And what I mean by lifestyle is not only body, it's the mind, it's the soul, everything. There are things that can creep back up. And the past few years for me, I went to a horrible space. I went to a horrible space in terms of relapse. Um, am I getting off track?
So no, I would just love for you to go into more of the alchemization. Like, the I think so often we can really focus on, especially when we're in them, we become so focused on the hardships, right?
Mm.
But how did you actually turn those into opportunities? How did you alchemize the hardships and pull yourself away from them enough so that you could see, well, wait a minute, I'm really focused on all the problems right now, but there are solutions. So how did you make that shift, and how can others make that shift to really, begin to alchemize the hardships to
Mhm.
opportunities?
So I think, such a question, as I've said before, it's not a one size fits all. And people need to understand that what might have worked for me might not work for them. And this is where self-discovery comes into play, because you need to figure out what works for you, right? And to figure that out, you have to know yourself to a certain extent. And what I mean by know yourself is the good stuff and the bad stuff. And my personality, sorry, is such that I am an extreme person. I need to go in one extreme to then bounce back in the others. And for example, when I was hitting that rock bottom and when I couldn't see past those blinders, I was like, there's no other way for me to get out of this except to do something that I've never done before, to go the complete opposite, to shift everything, people, places, and things, and just to try new things. And so, that goes by education. First of all, I was like, I need to start learning new things. And I don't mean studying like a master's degree and all that. No, I just mean small things, reading new books that I thought I would never read, reading some Joe Dispenza, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, like start looking at different types of content on social media instead of like the super hot Instagram chicks that I wish I had a body like them. No, I started, you know, looking at Jordan Peterson or like David Goggins or things like that. Because if you think about it, if there are people out there that are alchemizing all of this stuff, why wouldn't I be able to do it? Why wouldn't you be able to do that? So people, places, and things, shifting everything. You know, if you want a different result, you have to do different actions. You have to do different things. When you think about it, that just makes so much sense. And yes, I had to go through some things that I didn't want to do. For my drinking, I went back to 12-step fellowships. At the time, that worked for me. I went back to therapy to get mental health counseling because at the time I didn't know what was best for me because I was still discovering myself. And then it was back to the whole perspective thing. It's like, all right, let's switch things up. And that went by going back to basics. It's just so simple. Human beings are very simple. Take things back to basics. Eat well, sleep well, exercise a bit, and then start implementing, you know, bigger steps that you can, that maybe are not manageable in the beginning, but then have compound interest. Like, you know, something like the phone, this thing, don't be on it when you first wake up in the morning because you're allowing so many people to enter your peace, your headspace. It's like if you open your WhatsApp or your Instagram when you first wake up, it's like opening the front door to your room and allowing 20 people to come in at once. You don't do that when you wake up in the morning. So why would you do that to your brain? You know, small things like that. Same thing, like I mentioned, cold showers, or just like changing your eating habits. Instead of having the burger that is so good, maybe try having like, fine, have a burger, but maybe don't have the fries, you know, like cut down. If you can't stop smoking overnight, cut down, go to vaping, go to e-cigarettes. I don't know, figure out what works for you because I don't know what works for you. Lee doesn't know what works for you. The only way you can find that out is by experimenting and like customizing what new habits would work for you.
Mm-hmm. So how does someone identify that even changes need to be made? Because again, you know, today, day one, we're really focused on that opening to new possibilities, perspectives, right? And again, oftentimes when we're in it, it's hard to, you know, get our heads up long enough to be like, well, wait a minute, I'm not feeling optimal. I do feel completely stressed all the time. I'm not sleeping well. I don't have any energy. I do feel stuck. So how do people identify that they're even in that place to make the change?
Mhm. I mean, first of all, you know, get real. And I'm not saying get real with other people. I'm saying get real with yourself. This took
Mm,
me years and years to get honest with myself because I didn't know what it was like to be. I was lying to myself without even knowing it because I was all in the mind. I was like, no, 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 I'm fine. I'm this, I'm this. I was trying to persuade myself of things. Whereas like deep down, and I know that we all know this, we all have that gut feeling, we all have that intuition. And there's so many times where we don't want to believe it, but we know it's there. And I know we all know what I'm talking about because
mhm,
we're all humans, we live this. So the first step is really being honest with yourself. And there is no right or wrong. You know, there was a point, and I'm getting real honest and vulnerable here, where I knew I had to stop messing around with guys. And, you know, I had to be more mindful of like my sexual energy and not sharing myself with so many people. But I didn't want to. I still wanted to be on the Bumble and the Tinder and have like one night stands and like hook up with random guys. And all this is in sobriety. And I had to get real and honest with myself and be like, you know what? I don't want to stop fucking around. So what? But at least I know I'm being authentic and real with myself. And then
mhm,
at that point, I take full responsibility for my actions. If I want to stay in the darkness, I stay in it, but I'm honest with myself. To me, that's step number one. So get real with yourself. And if you want to
mm,
if you want to keep in this head fuck that you're in and this depressive state, great. Just acknowledge it and be honest about it. Now, if you actually want to change and you actually want to take steps towards changing that, that's like great. That's even better, like awesome, you know, good for you. And that, like I said, there's no right or wrong and there's no judgment. This is your life. You do as you please. No one's here to tell you otherwise. If you want to take better steps, That's the other thing. It's like, okay, now what? Now I'm open, I'm willing, but I don't know what the fuck to do. Because how would I know if I don't know myself? Because I haven't been honest with myself for so long. And that's where I feel asking for support, learning from different people, learning from people that have what you want, that was key for me.
Mm,
My role models at the time, am I allowed to say names of other people?
yeah.
So my role models at the time, and this is what worked for me, it was people like Jordan Peterson, David Goggins, Jocko Willink, Wes Watson, all of these big guys. And it's funny because I hadn't looked up to a woman yet, because I hadn't found a woman that had what I wanted.
Mm,
But these guys had what I wanted. And so I started applying what they were doing to then become the person that I want to become. And it, funnily enough, lo and behold, by changing little habits over 7 days, over 21 days, over 30 days, that worked. It's so simple as
mm,
that. The human body and the human brain is so hackable by very little tweaks that you do on a daily basis.
yeah. So powerful. So powerful. Taking those little steps. I always say, more isn't better, but better is better, and better leads
Mm-hmm.
to more. It's really
Mm-hmm.
important just to take those little steps, and then the next steps show up.
Absolutely.
So, last question. What does peak performance mean to you?
Peak performance. To me, that means optimizing optimizing the tools that we have, the tools that work for us in order to perform better. What does perform mean? What I hear by performance is whatever my body, mind, and soul is capable of doing in life. It's not only the whole physical, okay, run, whatever. No, it's how can I better my business? How can I better myself? How can I better relationships around me? How can I better connections? How can I be a better person in society? How can I be a better daughter, a better sister, a better all of that? Performance is if we just use the visual of a sports player, right? They perform, right? Like a basketball game. They're there, basketball players performing and doing their things. And that's how life is. You show up to life, you show up to the game. You have the tools, you train, you rest, you recover, but you play. You never stop playing. And that's the game of life. That's performing. Peak
Hmm.
performance, peak is optimizing everything that we have in order to be able to perform at our best. So for basketball players, if that involves, working out every day, doing ice baths, drinking protein shakes, they know how to optimize and how to be at their peak performance states. Now, us in everyday life, we just have to figure out what gets us to that state of peak performance. And that can go by, some people like to meditate 2 hours a day because that works for them. Great. Some people rather run every day. Great. Some people like to hijack themselves with steroids. Great. Other people like to be vegan. Okay, great. If that works for them, great. Figure out what works for you, get a coach to help you with that, and then live the most optimal life that you can.
Absolutely. And that's the whole idea with this summit. Obviously, we're just starting day one, but to really be able to bring peak performance into every area of your life, so that you can really live a peak existence. And I feel like that's what this is. We can move beyond peak performing in just one area to actually bring that to every area of our life, our relationships, our health, the money that we make, being fulfilled. And so, Ambr, how can people get a hold of you? Tell us what you're up to in the world. You kind of alluded to it at the beginning, but yeah, just share any more information that you'd like to, and how people can get in touch.
Sure. I mean, first of all, whoever's in Medellin, Colombia, feel free to reach out and come, like, let's go for coffee, let's go talk, like I love connecting with people one-on-one, because that's how it's supposed to be. That's how human connection works. So,
Mhm.
you can find me on Instagram. I don't know if you're going to link to any of it, but my personal
Yep.
is It's Ambr Now, and my space, it's called The Wellness Colombia. And basically, I've created this space here to co-work, co-heal, and co-create. So right now it's a big house. It's a big, beautiful house, where I co-live with people, and I show them how to transform their lives, how to implement healthy habits. We do weekly masterminds, accountability programs. We have lots of events going on almost every day around wellness, around, you know, peak performance in itself, right? Like yoga, meditation, exercise, ice bath, all of this. This whole space is alcohol free and drug free, because for me at least, that doesn't help me get to my peak performance state. Maybe it does for some, but for me it doesn't. And the people who come into this space need to respect that, because these are my boundaries. And boundaries are a whole other topic, but that also plays into the peak performance, right? It's knowing like how to set healthy limits with people. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And you know, it's been a couple of months and things have expanded so fast. And now we're moving the next month into a 10-bedroom mansion, because more people are asking for this. More people want to be part of the community. More people want to grow. More people want to like develop themselves spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And there's nothing more beautiful than that. And there's nothing more than I would want to do now, is to show people like in person how I got out of that horrible darkness addict life into this. And I realized that the only way to actually move forwards in life is through service and through helping others. I've understood that, and that's there's nothing more than I'd want to do is to help someone get out of that and into the light and find their purpose and their calling in life. You know, that's really what I want to do. So come find me in Medellin. I'd be more than happy to get a chai or a matcha with you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amber. It's such an honor for me to have you here. So grateful for you and for everything that you're doing in the world to support others in their journey. It's you're needed now more than ever. And I see you, I honor you, and I thank you.